In today's video, I'm going to be going through the question of, is online training becoming overcrowded, oversaturated, too competitive, hard to build, grow in 2024, and has everyone kind of missed the golden age of the years before and jumped in a little bit too late? Now, it's a common question, and I'd almost say it's a common question for everything. And what I mean by that is there is a very well-known business investing line that basically it talks about when was the best time to plant a tree, right? It's saying, when was the best time to plant a tree? And the answer to that is generally 10 years ago. When is the second best time to plant a tree? And that's today, right? And I'll relate what that actually means for those that can be a little bit generalized, right? And most people use it in a term of investing. So it's kind of like, when was the best time to buy a property, an investment property? When was the best time to buy shares? When was the best time to buy Bitcoin? When was the best time to start this business? When was the best time to do that business, right? And the answer was always 10 years ago, right? And the most important part of the saying is, what's the next part? The next part is, well, when's the second best time? Second best time's today. So what that relates to and what that means to, in the most easiest format, let's use shares for example. Yeah, let's use real estate, right? Just from an investment perspective. When was the best time? 10 years ago. Why? Because everything goes up. Everything's always better in hindsight, right? And when's the second best time to do it? Today. Why? Because you can't go back in time. And two, you're better off getting started straight away, because if you start today, in 10 years' time from now, if you ask the same question, you would already be there for 10 years. And it's always people waiting for the right time, and hence why they never actually take action, and hence why they never actually get the result that they want. So the point being is, there is never a golden time or a golden age to do anything, right? And you can liken that to Bitcoin, right? I jumped in on Bitcoin a long time ago, for example, and I think I bought in it when it was like $3,000, right? And it went to $8,000, and everyone's talking about, the bubble's bursting. If only I got in on $2, I would be a gazillionaire or whatever. And I actually sold everything at $8,000. And you look at it now, and it's like, I haven't looked at it recently. I don't really go into crypto and all that sort of stuff, but it's like at 50, 60, 80, $100,000, whatever it might be. And so hindsight's a beautiful thing, right? And if you do make the right moves, invest in the right things, invest in yourself, start businesses, whatever, there is no better time than, the past, but you can't go back in time. So the next best time is getting it started today. Now, in terms of specifics for online training, online fitness businesses, yes, advertising costs were cheaper 100 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, a week ago, a month ago, whatever. Everything gradually goes up. Yes, there was less competition. Yes, but let me give another a massive example. It's like Apple. Apple is a well-known company, right? They weren't the first company to bring out computers, right? And I think they've become the first $1 trillion company some time ago. There was a stage where they were almost completely off the market, right? And there was Microsoft. There was all these other places dominating. And if anyone wants to say, well, you wouldn't bring out a new computer brand because it's too saturated and over-competitive, and then Apple came back into the market and absolutely crushed it and become a $1 trillion business. So it's more the question, it's not have the golden ages passed. And ultimately, the golden ages have never passed, right? People still purchase things, there's still funds and people transacting more than ever, right? And if anything, almost the worst time to get on something is too early, when people don't know about it, right? There's kind of like a wave. And if you get on too early, it's a struggle, because you need to educate people what it is. And then once the wave starts peaking, it's like when everybody knows about it, is almost like when everyone's buying, right? Now, one, we are at a stage where a lot of people are aware of online training. There's a stage where I had my first online fitness business, and when I was trying to communicate to people like, hey, you can get an online trainer, a prospect, they'll be like, oh, I don't really know how that would work or what that would look like, or do people really train with trainers online? Like, don't they just see them in person? And now you speak to a prospect and it's like, it's a given, right? It's obvious. Most people have experienced or had an online trainer or know someone that has. So it's a much easier conversation from a trust perspective. Second to that is that now that it's more known in the market, it's not about competition or being oversaturated, because really, just like the Apple example, there are a lot of people, let's just say there's 100,000 online trainers out there, right? Probably 99,000 of them are little to no competition at all, because what they're doing is terrible, right? So in actual fact, if what you do is terrible, right, you're competing with all the other people being terrible. So it is probably oversaturated and over competitive. But if you're able to even just be like mediocre at sales, sales and marketing and business, then it is never competitive. There is so many clients out there. There's like 7.8 billion or more billion people in the world. And when you're charging the right amount, you're talking about 5 to 10 clients at 1,000, 2,000 each. You can make amazing returns on that. And you don't need like 1 billion clients, right? So there is ample clients for everybody. But the more exciting part is if you can do it well, there is no competition, there is no saturation, because that's how you cut through. Now, we all talk about niching, right? Now, if you just go out in the world and you're like, hey, I'm an online trainer, who wants to buy my stuff? You're doing it terrible, right? And so it'll feel like it's oversaturated and overly competitive because there's so many other people doing it as bad. But you hear and you see of online trainers, for example, going from zero to hero and doing like multi-millions every single year and doing it quick, because effectively they just come into the market and they do it right with a proven structure, right? Now, as I talked about before, ad costs do go up, organic reach does go down, so on and so forth. But as soon as you get on the right strategy that works at that time, there is no better time to be doubling down and growing. Now, I'll second to that to say that there's a funnel and an ad structure that we're using in our business with our clients right today that is creaming it, right? It's absolutely crushing it. And if I had this, it's taken us years to find this strategy of testing and trialing. And if I had this exact same strategy, when I started my first online fitness business, we probably would have tripled or quadrupled. And that's what I'm saying, is that strategies can improve and you can actually get better results now than you could even back in the day. So in answer to the question of, is it saturated? Is it overcrowded? So on and so forth. Well, no market is ever, right? Once again, you can go to the car industry. You could say that there's so many car brands and so many this and that, whatever. And then Tesla came out and absolutely creamed it, because they jumped into what was deemed to be a competitive and overcrowded and oversaturated market and just did it in a different way, right? And like, I don't have to tell anyone about the success and the growth level of a business like that. We all know these stories. So rather than thinking, is it saturated, is it over competitive, you need to think, well, how can I do it better to cut through and be in the lane where there is hardly anyone else? And that is where you're going to have massive success. So if you are trying to grow your online fitness business and you're feeling as you're using old outdated tactics that aren't working, or you're feeling like you're doing lots of work and you're getting hardly any results, what I would do is question what you're doing, right? And ask yourself, are you opening to trying something completely new and different, right? And do you believe if you keep doing the old thing that isn't getting results now, do you believe it's going to change? Do you believe that somehow you're going to wake up one day and what you've been doing is just going to get a completely different result, better result? And the answer is more likely no, right? So if you want to get a different result, you need to try something different, right? So I would strongly suggest looking at what you're doing, right? Making sure what you're doing is what's working right now. And if you don't know what's working right now, reach out to someone like myself. You can email me, chris@tribefit.co. You can DM me on any of my social platforms, we can have a chat, right? And we can kind of dig through what you've got in place, what you're doing now, what you might be missing that's holding you back from where you're wanting to get to. And then we can see if we can actually close that gap and help make your goals a reality. So if that makes sense, feel free to reach out. Hopefully this tip of the week has resonated for you guys. And think to yourself, if you ever think to yourself, it's just feeling like it's crowded, or I'm not getting results like I should, or whatever it might be, know that it's more than likely what you're doing, not what the market is doing, right? The lack of skill level of how you're executing what you're doing, and are you doing what's working right now? And that is how you cut through. No matter if it's a crowded or an uncrowded market, that is how it becomes uncrowded on the lane that you are in. Cheers.